you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this case is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, Your Honor.
Please be seated.
Good morning, and while you have been referenced throughout the trial, we've all seen you sitting there at the table. Would you go ahead and introduce yourself officially to the jury?
Yes. My name is Detective Angela Carter. It's spelled A-N-G-E-L-A. Last name Carter, C-A-R-T-E-R.
All right. Detective Carter, go ahead and tell us, and you're also, you're Detective Carter, but you're also Corporal Carter as well?
Yes.
Okay. So which one do you normally go by when it comes to day-to-day things?
I go by Detective.
All right. So Detective Carter, tell us what your role is with the police department.
I am currently assigned to the homicide unit.
All right. And how long have you been with Gwinnett County Police Department?
Since October of 2016.
Prior to being with Gwinnett County Police, did you have any prior law enforcement experience?
No.
Or you have any prior military experience?
Yes. Prior to joining Gwinnett County Police, and a little bit overlap as well, I served 9 years in the United States Army.
All right. And in the Army, what was your assignment, if you will?
My MOS, it was 68 Juliet, which is Medical Logistics Specialist, which is a fancy term for medical supply.
Okay. And so you served 9 years. When did you retire from the Army or discharged or whatever the appropriate term is?
Yes. I left, I believe it was 2018.
Okay. So since 2016, you've been with the Gwinnett County Police Department. Tell us, just very generally, kind of what roles you've held in the police department.
Like I said before, I'm currently in the homicide unit. Prior to that, I was in the robbery unit. We investigate robberies, obviously. Prior to that, I was also on the special victims unit, where I investigated crimes against children, sex crimes of all ages, and juvenile missing persons. I also was part of the Internet Crimes Against Children task force, where we worked with NCMEC, National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. We had to watch child porn and stuff like that, and then we did investigation, search warrants and stuff to locate the individuals who possessed it.
Prior to being with the SVU unit, were you a patrol officer?
Yes, I actually worked as I was on the CRT unit, which is the Community Response Team in West Precinct, which is in Norcross. Basically, it's a road officer, but we don't get dispatched to calls. We're proactive, and we do kind of like road investigations for areas that are having a trend of crimes, like entering autos, armed robberies, stuff like that.
So some hybrid maybe between patrol officer and detectives?
Yes, it is. And then prior to that, I was a road officer where I got dispatched to calls.
Okay. Now, how long have you been with the homicide unit?
I've been with the homicide unit since September of 2021.
In your time with the homicide unit, how many cases have you been the lead detective on? 14
homicides.
And how many cases, if you know, have you participated with the rest of the homicide unit in investigating?
We always work together on every case, so it has to be over 100.
Okay. Throughout your career, both in maybe the homicide unit and other units that you've been a part of, have you received or have you handled any cases involving missing children?
Yes.
All right, tell us about that.
But you said with the homicide unit?
Or before.
Yes. At
all with your time with the Gwinnett County Police Department, have you handled cases involving missing children?
In Special Victims Unit, I did look into a few cases. There's a certain procedure and timeline. It was very rare for it to get to the point where the child had not returned home before it got to us. And actually with the homicide unit, I did recently have a case where I did handle a juvenile missing person that was originally being investigated by the school resource officers at Gwinnett County.
Okay. Now, I'm going to take you to just the concept of a missing child investigation. Is there any particularized trainings or anything that police officers go through in terms of investigating those types of cases?
You get basic investigative training. There's certain procedures that Gwinnett County follows. As soon as a parent calls in to report their child is missing, the report is taken, and they're listed on GCIC, which is the Georgia Crime Information Center. It also goes to the NCIC, which is National Crime Information Center, so everybody in the United States can see it. After it's been 24 hours, this is the common misconception people often get, is that we have to wait 24 hours for someone to be looked for. That's not necessarily the case. When someone is a juvenile under the age of 17, running away is technically a crime. It's considered a status offense. But we don't charge the juveniles unless they've been gone for the 24 to 48 hours. That's where that time frame comes into play.
Okay.
And also, I've actually received formal training. I went to a conference in Las Vegas where they went into great detail about investigating missing persons, different resources that you can take, other avenues you can look into, because oftentimes there are some barriers that you can face when trying to get information for someone who's missing, whether it be a juvenile or even an adult, because to get a search warrant, you have to have a crime. So if you know that someone's missing, you have to be able to articulate a crime before you're able to get a search warrant to serve to cell phone companies or Facebook, anything like that. So we kind of struggle in getting that kind of information.
So there are some limitations, sounds like the police department has, or the police in general have, in investigating those crimes. But tell us, at the Gwinnett County Police Department, we heard from Lieutenant Biggers, who kind of talked about some of this. I don't want to retread the ground he did, but just tell us, when does the homicide unit become, generally, in a missing persons case, how and when do you become involved in a case like that?
Well, if it's an adult missing person, we work those automatically. That's what we're usually assigned. With juveniles, it's very, very rare that we become involved. A lot of times I kind of insert myself in cases like this one. If there's certain situations that I'm particularly interested in, I'll kind of involve myself and give sometimes unsolicited opinions and advice. So it's very rare, unless they're obviously located deceased.
And of course, if somebody's located deceased, the homicide unit is the group that ends up handling that case?
Yes.
Now, in this case with Susana Morales, tell the jury how you first became involved in any capacity in the case.
As soon as the case was reported, I heard about it. We're all on the same floor, just opposite sides of the floor. Lieutenant Biggers he may not have seemed like it on the stand. He's very, very loud. So even though we're on opposite sides of the floor, I could hear him talking about it. And some of the details of the case caught my attention. So I walked down there to get more information. And from there, I kind of followed up with it and asked him if he needed any assistance. Because I was previously in SVU, the crimes that they deal with, they write different kinds of search warrants. The investigations usually go a different way. There's different procedures. So because I transitioned from the SVU unit, I went to robbery and then homicide, I was familiar with the other search warrants that were available that someone in the special victims unit that had no other previous experience may not have knowledge of. So I continued to kind of push, and anyone I work with will tell you that I'm bad about trying to insert myself. So I continued to push, and then at some point leadership did agree that I should probably come in. And then in January of 2023, we had a meeting where we agreed that I would become lead in the case.
Now, I know you said that and testified about somewhat being involved in other people's cases.
Yeah.
Helping hand. But in terms of this case, was there anything about this case that struck you different than other cases?
Absolutely, especially with the juvenile missing person. Juveniles leave home all the time. They don't come home when they're supposed to. But there's always some kind of trace of them. They're always on social media still. There's still activity on their cell phones. They may be going to school, or they're always in communication with some of their friends, especially their best friends or boyfriends, girlfriends. That just wasn't the case in this investigation, as well as the facts with the Life 360. That was definitely odd, knowing that she didn't have a vehicle.
Okay. And so, prior to January, when you officially became involved in the case and took over as the lead, what kind of, I guess, other than listening and hearing about what was going on, did you have involvement in assisting with the investigation?
Yes, I would just look up social media accounts with Susana and make mention of there's no activity going on right now, and make suggestions on what should and possibly could be done.
Now, do you have a particular, I'll use the word expertise, maybe interest, or just you're good at it, at social media, looking at social media and things like that?
Yes, social media is probably my biggest source in any investigation. I'm able to find people related to others, track activity and such. I have received formal training on social media investigations, as well as done a ton of search warrants on social media accounts to see what kind of information I can get. Also personally using it as well.
In a case where there's a missing juvenile, what kind of things do you expect to find on social media?
I still expect them to be posting, liking. They may not do it on their main pages that their family may be involved in, or follow them, I mean. So I always look for other associated accounts with them. They call it a spam account. It's kind of where they post stuff that they don't want their families to see or their parents to see. So if I don't see any activity on their main page, I'll go look for a spam page, or I'll locate friends that they have and then see if their friends are posting where they may be in the videos or in the posts or commenting on their activity and stuff like that.
If you had 100 missing juvenile cases, how many of those do you anticipate finding social media type activity that might give you an indicator that the person is okay and or has access to a phone and social media accounts and is communicating with people in their life, even if it's not their parents?
Out of 100, probably like 98 for 98 people. Okay. It's pretty common.
In the investigation here, at some point, was it you or Lieutenant Biggers or somebody else, did anybody obtain search warrants for social media accounts belonging to Susana Morales?
Yes.
And when did y'all review those?
Yes, I did.
In the line of what we've been talking about, did you find anything in any of Susana's social media accounts that would indicate that after the night of July 26th that she was using it, accessing it, communicating or messaging with anyone?
There was no activity on her accounts. Even if some, on the off chance that they're not messaging people, there'll still be connections to Wi-Fi, where it'll show like an IP address that they're connected to. There was zero activity on any of her social media accounts.
Okay. So, and you mentioned something that I was about to ask you about, IP addresses or internet protocol addresses. What are those?
It depends on the device, but sometimes the devices switch IP addresses constantly. It's common with cell phones. It's the internet connectivity, and it's usually specified to certain devices.
So another way of saying this is that if I were to use my phone, if I had social media, and I were to use my phone to access my social media, would the social media companies keep a record of the IP address that I used to log into and access my social media account?
Yes, if it's from your cell phone, you can reference the exact date and time that the IP address was used to identify where that activity was coming from. And if you were doing it from home, like on Wi-Fi, it'll be the same IP address through your internet.
In terms of the Susana's social media accounts, did you review those and look at IP address histories and things like that?
Yes.
Did you find any connections made to her social media accounts after she disappeared on July 26th of 2022?
No.
How did, and kind of, if you can, you took over the case officially in January of 2023. Once you were the official lead detective on the case, would you tell us what you did in order to take over the case at that point?
I reviewed all of the investigative material that had already been collected at that time. I reviewed interviews, and after doing that, I kind of started over. I wanted to start from scratch just to make sure like nothing was missed. So after reviewing everything, I made contact with Susana's family and did an interview. And
if you recall, the approximate date that you scheduled the interviews and talked to Susana's family?
I believe it was January 17th of 2023.
Now, what family did you talk to?
I spoke to Maria, or Guadalupe, who is Susana's mother, and Jasmine, who is her sister.
Where did those take? Where did you talk to them
at? At Gwinnett County Police Headquarters in an interview room.
And you've been sitting here when we heard from Mr. Smeeloff. One of the things I wanted to ask you, when you talked to Jasmine, did she indicate to you at that time the video recording that they obtained from King David Academy, the video surveillance of Susana, did she indicate to you at approximately what time that video was recorded?
Yes, when I asked Jasmine for what time that video was captured, she told me 9:57 p.m.
Okay. So when you said you reviewed the investigative stuff, at that time, we heard from Lieutenant Biggers. Did you review reports and information submitted by Lieutenant Biggers?
I did.
It was also Corporal Conway that we heard from. Did you review reports from him as well?
Yes.
Okay. Now, throughout we heard them testify about different, and also Jasmine, also tips that came in just throughout the investigation, people calling and saying something to the family about seeing Susana, or did you see those in their reports?
Yes, I did.
Is that, in your experience, is that type of behavior from people, the tips that are coming in, is that common?
Yeah, especially with cases like this that get a lot of media attention and media coverage.
At this time, when you took over in January, had there been any media coverage of Susana's disappearance?
A ton of media coverage.
Okay. Now, at some point, were you able to, when you took over the case, were you able to create a timeline for Susana's disappearance?
Yes.
And what's the importance of that? In an investigative sense, what's the importance of creating some kind of timeline of the disappearance?
To piece everything together and try to create a story, or not a story, to figure out what happened, to fill any voids, to look for additional evidence within that time frame, basically to get a full picture of what actually happened.
And what kind of timeline were you able to develop initially whenever you took over the case about the disappearance of Susana?
I was able to develop a pretty solid timeline up until her phone died.
Okay, and walk us through, from your investigation, what timeline you were able to develop.
Yeah, so after I interviewed Maria, She told me about how Susana walked away from her home. She told me 6 p.m., but again, it had been a long period of time since then, and sometimes people don't recall exact time. So that's where, phone records and stuff come into play, and it helps out quite a bit. She told me that she contacted Susana 10 to 15 minutes after she left. Susana didn't answer, so she sent her a text message. I was able to get Susana's phone records, and I actually saw that call came in at 7:17 p.m. Susana's location at that time was consistent with her walking on Singleton Road in the direction of Windscape Village Lane or Sterling Glen Apartments towards Kelly's house.
And since we're talking about that, I'm just going to pull that back up here as we're talking about that. Her location that you're talking about was at 7:17 p.m.?
Correct.
All right, now, I'm going to just republish here a slide from the PowerPoint presentation that was Exhibit 3, testified to and admitted by Investigator Wilbanks. All right, here at 7:17 p.m., this phone call that you're referencing from Susana, and this is kind of an overall screenshot here. I'm going to go to the next slide, which just gives us a bigger photograph. You said it's consistent with her walking down Singleton Road. Tell us why you said that.
Her phone, the azimuth that was provided for that phone call in relation to the tower it includes the area of Singleton Road that's in between her house and in the direction of Kelly's house.
Investigator Wilbanks talked about the sectors and things like that. In this particular phone call, because she's hitting off the sector, did that exclude the majority of the rest of the Sterling Glen apartments?
Yes.
Okay. So based on when you observed the phone records and looked at things like this, it appeared to you that she may have been on Singleton Road walking at that time, which would be consistent with what Maria said?
Well, Maria said that she was walking towards Hoy Taylor, which I don't even think is in that sector either.
That's right. So
it's consistent with the fact that they later learned that she went to Kelly's house.
Understood. So her mother thought she was going to Esmeralda's house. And
Esmeralda's house.
Right. But otherwise, it's consistent with her walking to the Sterling Glen apartments at that time.
Yes.
Okay. That was kind of the first indicator of a timeline for you at that point, around 7:17 p.m. What next were you able to look at and figure out kind of the sequence of events?
So I began to review the Life 360 screenshots that Jasmine provided. I was able to see that she was actually stationary in the Windscape Village Lane or Sterling Glen Apartments between, I believe it was 7:28 p.m. and 9:58 p.m.
And I'll pull up State's Exhibit number 18 here just so we can see it together. What you're talking about, is this the screenshot that you're talking about when it comes to the Life 360?
Yes.
Okay. So 7:28 to 9:58 p.m. Her Life 360 placed her there at the Sterling Glen Apartments?
Yes.
All right. So you had that information in terms of timeline. What next did you have?
I reviewed the next screenshot where it showed her leaving. That coupled with the video collected from King David business, as well as statements made by Kelly and Alyssa.
Okay. And I pulled up this. Is this the screenshot you're talking about, the other Life 360 screenshot that you looked at?
Yes.
Okay. And in terms of, we can see the path, but in terms of the timeline, what kind of, what's the time range for this trip?
From 9:58 p.m. to 10:07 p.m.
All right. And you also said that you were able to utilize the video footage from King David, but also conversations with Alyssa and Kelly. What specifically information did you obtain from them in terms of trying to piece together a timeline of Susana's movements?
So they discussed posts that they made on social media, specifically Alyssa, regarding the videos and stuff that they made that day. Kelly mentioned, not directly to me, but I believe to Biggers, that she had a curfew that she had to be home by a certain time, as well as she wasn't allowed to have people spend the night. She said that she had walked, and I believe she provided that time around 9:30ish, and said that she walked Susana to the back entrance towards Singleton from Sterling Glen Apartments, and then she began to walk home.
Now, so you, armed with that information from Alyssa and Kelly, did you have an approximate time of when Susana left the apartment complex?
Around between 9:30 and 9:58 p.m.
Okay. Now, once you had that and you saw her leaving, or believed her to be leaving, you saw her on the King David, what else did you obtain in terms of trying to identify a timeline for Susana?
So on that screenshot, you can actually see it's consistent. The exit that Susana would have walked out of in Sterling Glen Apartments, you take a left. There's no reason to cross the road or anything. So King David showed her continuing to walk in the direction of her house. On this, she actually makes it to the street where she would have turned left to go down the street to start walking to Santa Ana Drive, where she was where she lived.
You have a pointer up there to your right.
Oh, yes, sorry.
No, that's all right. If you can use that and kind of show us what you're talking about as you're talking about her turning left. This is State's Exhibit 18.1 that's being displayed.
So this is the Sterling Glen Apartment. So she would have turned left, walking down Singleton Road. And again, she wouldn't have had to cross the street or anything. It's all on the left side of the road if you're driving southbound. This street right here, I forget what this is actually called, but this is Santa Ana Drive where she resided. So she made it all the way to the street that she would have needed to turn left on off of Singleton Road to reach her residence.
Okay. And then after seeing this screenshot, what was the next timeline piece that you put together?
I then obtained her phone records I had the other Life 360 screenshot.
And we'll go to that one. Which one are you talking about?
The one that shows her traveling northbound on Singleton Road, crossing over on Steve Reynolds Boulevard at approximately 40 miles per hour.
I pulled up State's Exhibit 18.2. Is this the one that you're talking about?
Correct.
Okay, I'm going to zoom in here just so we can see. All right, so this was the next piece, and give us how this fit into the timeline.
There, it shows her next activity from 10:21 p.m. to 10:26 p.m.
Okay. Now, I'm going to, here I can scroll down here just a little bit so we can see the bottom of this photograph. I zoomed in just because it's a little bit of a distance from me to the screen. Here it says top speed on the bottom left. Is this what you're referring to when you said 40 miles an hour?
Yes.
Okay. Now, at this time, the starting location here, which is on the left side of the screen, is that starting location consistent with where and I'll just go back to 18.1, right? So we can track this together. 18.1, where she ended up here on this previous trip on 18.1, is that consistent with where the next trip started?
Yeah, it's just a little bit further ahead. You can't see it on the previous shot, but yeah, this intersection is right next to where the other trip ended.
So the end of the previous trip and the start of this trip, both right there at the intersection of Singleton Road, Indian Trail?
Correct.
Okay. Now, after you observed this, right, we have the 1026. What's the next thing in terms of, were there other Life 360 things that you looked at?
Yes, Kaya received I had a screenshot that Kaya received a text message at 10:29 p.m. indicating a crash alert that potentially Susana was involved in a car accident or dropped her phone.
Now, are you familiar with Life 360?
I am.
All right, and I want to talk about, do you know we've used the term crash alert, but are you familiar with that?
Yes.
And tell us, what you know about that.
So for a crash alert to occur, your phone has to be over 10% for the alert to be sent. It also cannot be on power save mode. It can't be on airplane mode. It has to be connected to a cell tower or data source. you have to be in a vehicle, and it has to be moving 25 miles per hour within 30 seconds of the sudden braking, and it doesn't detect small movements. It detects sudden stops. So even the website will say that it may not pick up on fender benders and stuff. It has to be a very abrupt stop.
So, and there's a couple things I want to point out about that, or not point out, but ask you about, excuse me. You mentioned that in order to activate or for somebody's Life 360 to send this alert to whomever they have in their circle, the first thing you mentioned was your phone has to be over 10%. Do you mean 10% battery life?
Correct.
Okay. In this particular case with Susana, did you have any concerns that her battery life was below 10% at the time the crash alert was sent?
No.
Okay, and we'll walk through that just a little bit here. There's a screenshot, because we looked at them, and you've been sitting here with other witnesses. This one, I believe that Kaya testified about. This is 18.3 here, this screenshot of Susana. And down here in the bottom, I'm just going to zoom in so it's visible for everyone here. Down here at the bottom, there is a battery indicator there that says, looks like less than 9% is what it says. Is that what you see?
Yes.
All right, and this screenshot Ms. Jones testified to is at 12:12 a.m.
Correct.
Anything about this screenshot that helped you draw the conclusion that Susana's phone was not below 10% at the time that it generated the crash alert?
Yeah, so she took the screenshot at 12:12 a.m. So there was an hour and 15-minute time gap, I believe, from the crash alert actually being sent. So like it says 10:30 p.m. yesterday. So dropping 2% is not uncommon for, an average phone battery. Also, when you're actively tracking phones and checking the location like they had been at that time, well, based on what they told me, it causes the battery life to drop a lot quicker. And we find that we struggle with this as well sometimes, where if we're actively pinging somebody's phone, we're looking for them, the battery decreases very quickly.
So if the crash alert came in at 10:29 and this screenshot's taken at 12:12, that's almost an hour and 45 minutes?
An hour and 45, yes.
Okay. And again, there was another screenshot, same sort of question. This next screenshot was at 12:22 a.m. Up here in the top left corner, we can see the 12:22. So 10 minutes later after that, this is State's Exhibit 18.4. There's another screenshot, and here at the bottom, it also gives us a battery indicator here. What are we looking at here?
It's at 7%.
Okay. Now, would you expect to see that, the continuous drop in battery level when somebody's actively tracking it like this over the period of time?
Yes.
Now, here on several of these, we've got this information here at the bottom that says near Oak Lock Trail, and it says since 10:30 p.m. yesterday. I don't use Life 360, so just explain to us what, in your experience, that means.
It's in that area. So one downfall that it does have, so once the battery does start to drop a little bit, the location can change and not become as reliable, but it's still in a pretty close proximity.
Okay. And so that may be another question or another point that you need to bring up here. In State's Exhibit 18.4, the location appears to be slightly different than 18.3.
Yes.
Go back and forth. Is there any explanation to how that could possibly happen?
Yes. So it could depend on battery. It could be on the signal at the time. It doesn't. So Life 360 doesn't just use your cell tower data. It uses GPS as well as data points, which can be fed sometimes through surrounding Wi-Fi. Even if you're not familiar with it, Wi-Fi is constantly communicating with your phone, especially if you have it available.
And the last one I wanted to look at here is 18.5. As you're looking at this, and with particular, on this map, as we've all seen, there doesn't appear to be any specific location icons here to pinpoint any location. But But down here where it says phone is out of battery since 10:30 p.m. yesterday, what does that mean to you?
That the phone is currently out of battery and that she's been in the same location since 10:30 p.m. yesterday.
Okay, so is that, and I'll zoom in just so we can all see it, because, there we go. So is that that indication are two separate things. It's telling you the phone is out of battery, but yet the phone has also been in that location since 10:30 p.m.
Yes, and it also gives you the option to get directions to Susana.
Okay, I see that there on the bottom. All right, now, and so, quite frankly put, based on the Life 360 information that you received, was Susana's phone out of battery at 10:30 p.m.?
No.
Okay. In terms of the timeline, you've now gotten us to 10:29 p.m. with the crash alert through Life 360. Did you find anything after that?
Sorry, Mike.
It's all right. Did you find anything after that in terms of the timeline associated with Susana's disappearance?
I obtained her phone records, and I was able to see that the tower that her phone was hitting off of was consistent with the data or the towers in the area that her phone, it was consistent with the information that was provided by Life 360. I was also able to review the phone records, and based on that, I was able to determine that her phone died, I believe it was between, this is a guesstimate, between 5:30 a.m. and 6:15 a.m., I believe.
All right. And is that the morning of the 27th?
Correct.
Okay.
And there was a lot of calls coming in and out, so that would be expected.
Understood. Now, did you review her phone records?
Yes.
Okay. And we'll get to those here in a minute. I'm going to show you, yet again, just another slide from State's Exhibit 3. This one here, as Investigator Wilbanks testified to, all the remaining calls after she disappeared showed her phone to be in this location prior to it dying?
Yes.
Okay. And this, what we're looking at here, this same cone that we've looked at before, is this consistent with her phone being thrown out of the vehicle at the O'Clock Trace area?
Yes.
Did you ever go look for it?
I did.
Tell us about that.
So after I took over the case, I know they had previously already went to look for the phone, but again, I like to verify just to, see. So because on the Life 360 alert, it looks like there may have been a U-turn. There is an area on Steve Reynolds where you can make a U-turn there. I was like, I wanted to go out and check the center median. So I did go back out there with the metal detectors and check the same areas. I also walked around O'Clock Trace.
Okay, so we're looking at here, you mentioned the U-turn. I'm going to zoom in on Stage Exhibit 18.2 just so that we can all be clear about what you're talking about here. What are you talking about?
This area right here, it kind of looks like it overlapped, like someone would make a U-turn. So that area, there's a center median right there. I wanted to just go check the center median because I wasn't sure if they had actually checked it before.
Okay. Did you turn up anything?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
Mr. Let's take a break.
Yes, ma'am.
We've been going a good while. Let's take a comfort break, our morning comfort break. Be back at 11:05.